test the product, gain some initial traction, prove some KPIs, and then go and raise the funds rather than build an MVP that looks cool without any traction, because as soon as you have a bit of traction, a bit of user data, suddenly you can have a much more valuable conversation with someone.
Jonny, I was going to say thank you for coming back on the show, but this is your 4th time coming in the studio.
Startup van record, I hear.
It is a record.
It
is a record. What are we going to talk about?
Well, we've got lots to talk about today. So the first time I came on the show was after we went on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
The second time was
Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And the third time was just after we got acquired. So I think our whole story has been documented on the Startup Van.
That's true.
So we're going to talk about today life after acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there aren't that many companies that get acquired, and you often hear some horror stories about what happens, founders falling out with the people that bought them, or staff leaving. Fortunately, for me, it's quite a happy story, which is why I'm coming on to talk about it. And it's just really interesting to be this team of 6-7 people that get bought. Huge company, 400 people globally, based out of Germany. You don't know what it's going to be like.
What size were you when you got bought?
We were 6 people.
6 people,
Yeah,
okay.
we were 6 people. Now we're 7. We've just made
growth.
Made a hire, growth. Yeah, that's it. 7 in our
I don't know
team.
what percentages that is.
Not enough yet. And it's really interesting to be this, small startup team with a vision, to find a partner that actually says, hey, we really like what you're doing. We want to do something similar, but rather than build a team, we're going to buy it. And that's really why we got bought. They wanted to buy our skills, our expertise, and our product. And now we're in a position in a much nicer office with more funding and more budgets. And we're taking Pouch, our browser extension product, really to the next level.
Yeah.
Like our revenues have grown 123% from first 5 months of last year to first 5 months of this year.
Let's just track back a little bit, right? Because you obviously sold the company, right?
Yeah.
And now you're working there. And it brings its own, I won't say problems, but it brings its own kind of worries, as in like where beforehand you were always worried about where the money's going to come from, and you've got staff to look after and the whole lot. So what worries do you have now, or do you have any? Because you're wearing shorts and seem to be chilled out and relaxed.
Absolutely. The worries are that these people put their faith in you to deliver on a vision, in a similar way to having investors that you're trying to earn a payback for.
Yeah.
And that you want to deliver on that, and there are targets set, and there's people you're letting down, and obviously, like, if it doesn't work, unlike when it's your own company and your job security is based on the cash in your bank, but if we don't deliver, then we're out of jobs, and it's a lot of pressure because they bought us with a certain expectation, certain targets, certain things we said, and we want to smash it out of the park for them. And it's difficult because you've gone from having control of every single element of your business to suddenly you've gone from all your developers being in your office to the development team's now in Macedonia, and you've got to fly out there if you've got any critical issues, and your designers are in Munich, and you're having late night Skype calls with people in America because that's like where a potential project is working. So it's just a totally different way of working where you've got to learn like the systems and the operation of another massive company whilst trying to keep your original team and your original culture that allowed you to get to the point that someone actually wanted to buy you.
Were you worried in the beginning? Was there any, not hesitation, probably the wrong word, but was there any fear in the beginning that, you obviously an entrepreneur at heart, like running a business, was there a fear of, I'm going into a corporate, I'm going to have to answer to Dave or whatever, and you're going to have to be in there working for somebody else? And you do have your team, and you brought your team, and that's why they acquired you. But at the end of the day, was that ever a thought in your head going, at heart you built a business, you're an entrepreneur, you built it well enough that someone wanted to acquire it, which is impressive, and now you're working for someone else. Was that ever a fear?
Yeah, it was. How can you deal with it? You've been in one working mindset for 2.5, almost maybe 3 years, and now it's this type of planning and these types of targets and these types of partners. Yeah, definitely a fear, because you don't know how you're going to react to it. And the adjustment, the first month was tough, but we were like, let's take 6 weeks to do it, and then we'll see how we're going. And it was tough more because we've been on this massive high, now we're into a normal job, not because they made it difficult for us. It's just a personal adjustment thing.
Of course.
Yeah. I think that's the same, going from a early stage startup to taking on a Series A and becoming a growth stage startup is probably something similar, taking on a lot of money, having a lot of responsibility. Here it's like, right, plan your budgets, and it's like, whoa, like I've never Like there's a
You
lot of
never had
zeros
to, yeah.
here, and I've never actually handled this much budget before, and we're expected to execute on it. Fortunately, you know, the first 6 months have been really good, and they're very happy with what we've done. But that's a massive learning curve. My one co-founder, he'd worked in, you know, tech companies all his life. He's about 8 years older than me, so he was like a really good guy to be like, okay, this is how big companies work in terms of planning product and everything else. Where I worked as like a cog in the wheel at Ernst & Young,
Right.
I never really had responsibility, having to manage people in like a formal way. So yeah, massive learning, and it's just like a different type of learning. And a lot of people have said, oh, how are you going to deal with working for someone? You know, you start your own business, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? But actually taking a business of 6 people, certain revenue, and trying to grow that to a team of 20, 25 people with another certain revenue is a totally new challenge that that I can do actually with a bit of security.
I suppose one of the things that we've heard from other founders when it came to acquisitions was, when you're now employed, if you're no longer, if there isn't something that they put together saying if the company grows this amount, there's a bonus in it for you here, right? That if you are just employed and you're watching the company grow and grow and grow, and I know in your position it's gone from like say 6 employees and now there's 7, right? But if it had gone from say 6 employees to all of a sudden 50 or whatever it might be, you're no longer getting a slice of the pie when it comes to the profits and being able to take a nice little dividend for yourself at the end of the year. Is that something that you think would affect you, or have I just brought to your attention and now you're
no, you're right. That was you know, keeping us motivated. So we run really independently, which is great. Like Pouch is still our vision, our baby. We've made massive improvements on it. Our user base has grown a lot. We've got a lot more retailers on it. Like it's a much better tool than it was 6 months ago before the acquisition. And the managers of the company that bought us knew they wanted us to keep us motivated. So as part of our deal, we have effectively like a small profit share on what our project does. So they knew that, and they want to keep us thinking about, okay, how do we keep them motivated? So they were smart to put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So we do, you know, it's not massive, and we don't have any equity in the business, and that was our choice as part of our deal terms. Yeah, they're good at keeping us motivated.
What is getting the deal done actually like in reality? Because we know a few people who had their business acquired and they got approached and, look, we want to go into this space. You're already dominating this space. We would like to acquire you. We're a bigger company.
Yeah.
And the person goes, oh, brilliant. I feel like selling the company. Yeah, excellent. This is perfect timing. And then it's 6 months of due diligence and going through your books and going through your employees and going through every little fine detail. And then when you send it to them, coming back with more questions and more questions. Was that what it was like, or was it in any way difficult to go through that?
It wasn't that bad, but it was like that. They wanted our product and our team. So, you know, we want this product. We want a money-saving browser extension. How much would it cost us to build, to hire the right people to run it? It's quite a niche product. Like, it's great and it works really well, but it's niche. Like, and that was, I guess, why they came to us and why we were able to sell it, because it wasn't very common. So there was a lot of due diligence, but they were a willing buyer. We were a willing seller, and in reality, it took like 2 months. So pretty quick. But they made it very clear what their plan, why they wanted this product, and what their plan would be. So the company that bought us, Global Savings Group, they build digital products for big media companies, specializing in voucher code websites. So the Daily Mail has the second biggest voucher code website in the UK called discountcode.dailymail that Global Savings Group build for them.
Right, okay. The white label it, whatever.
They white label it.
Okay.
And so they said, you have Pouch, you've built a great brand, you've built a great product, but Daily Mail want their own version of this product. So they said your first 6 months is going to be building and executing on the Daily Mail Extras, that's what we called it, Daily Mail Extras browser extension. And so that's what we've done. It's going pretty well. The product's good. Has some slight differences to Pouch in terms of how it's marketed and what it's used for. And they said, this is what we want you to do. And they said, if you're not comfortable with that, you know, this isn't going to work. So we knew what we were going in for. Team of 6 people, pretty simple like product, and you know, we were a very simple business at the end of the day. So there wasn't like crazy due diligence. But yeah, that was tough. And of course, like, deals were all about momentum, keeping people interested.
Yeah.
That was our biggest priority. We were not their biggest priority. So if things get distracted, you got to keep it online. So my favorite thing was like the Sunday night email, just keeping everyone aligned to say, this is what we need to do this week to move forward with the deal. And that's probably why we were able to get it done, just keeping everyone engaged.
That's good advice, because at the end of the day, they're a huge organisation, 400 people worldwide, and you're a team of 6. You need to keep line of sight, I suppose, of what's going on.
Yeah.
Would you have done anything differently, looking back?
Would we have done anything differently? Yes, we would have. We never really gave ourselves a shot to be a ginormous business. We just didn't raise enough money.
Okay.
I would say that, like, being quite honest, we raised £340,000 over like a 2-year period.
Mm-hmm. What should you have raised, do you think, looking back?
If looking back with it, to do it again, now I'm not saying I would stop and do it again because the market's changed.
Yeah,
our
but
products
at
are
the
already
time.
out there. At the time, I would have built an MVP, driven, rather than raising the round on the MVP, put some of our own money into it, got some initial user traction there, and then raised maybe like 2-3 million quid off the back.
Was that majority of that for marketing, just to get the name out there?
Yeah, that we would have raised that money for marketing because
Okay.
it's really expensive to market a product, and
Yeah.
we didn't have that experience, which is why this whole Daily Mail tie-in so great, because Daily Mail do the marketing for us, and so it's like free user
Huge
acquisition
reach.
reach, effectively. Yeah, it's massive. So yeah, like, to be totally frank, and I would give this advice to anyone else: test the product, gain some initial traction, prove some KPIs, and then go and raise the funds, rather than build an MVP that looks cool without any traction. Because as soon as you have a bit of traction, a bit of user data, suddenly you can have a much more valuable
Yeah.
conversation with someone, and you can say, now I know I need this 2-3 million quid to scale it up because I've already spent £1,000 on Facebook ads, and I know this is my cost per acquisition.
Johnny, we're out of time,
Yeah.
and I really don't know what we're going to get you on for the
Next
fifth show
time.
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are
Maybe
we
my
gonna
next
talk about?
business in a couple of years.
The shorts are getting shorter and shorter every time.
Yeah.
Johnny, look, thanks a million for coming in. Appreciate
Cheers,
the
guys.
time.
Cheers. Really
Thanks, Johnny.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.